Why power training matters. Most people who step into a gym think in terms of two big categories: strength and endurance. On one side, you've got people grinding out heavy lifts, slow, controlled squats or bench presses, trying to add more weight to the bar. On the other, you see runners, cyclists, and rowers chasing miles and minutes, building cardiovascular stamina. If you're really deep into the fitness world, you'll also hear about hypertrophy, the training style designed to grow muscles bigger, and maybe even mobility or flexibility work. But there's another dimension of fitness, one that almost never gets the spotlight: power. And oddly enough, power training may be the single most important factor in predicting how well we'll move, live, and stay independent as we age. Research following thousands of adults over a decade has shown something surprising. Low muscle power was a better predictor of mortality than low strength. In other words, whether you can move quickly may matter more for your long-term health than whether you can move heavy. So what is power? It's not just strength. Power is force multiplied by velocity, the ability to generate force fast. Think of rising out of a chair, catching yourself after a stumble, or climbing stairs without hesitation. Strength alone can't guarantee that you can do those things quickly enough. And here's the kicker: power declines earlier and faster than strength. While we might lose 1 to 2% of our strength each year after midlife, our power output can drop twice as fast. By the time someone reaches their 70s or 80s, that missing snap in their movements can mean the difference between living independently and needing constant help. In this video, we're going to explore the full story of power training: what it is, how it works, how it differs from other training methods, what the science says about its role in longevity, and most importantly, how anyone, at any age, can safely and effectively train for power. What is power? When we talk about power in the human body, we're really talking about the marriage of two different qualities: strength and speed. Mathematically, it's force multiplied by velocity. In plain language, it's not just about how much weight you can move, it's about how fast you can move it. Let's make it concrete. Imagine two different scenarios in the gym. In the first, you're grinding through a heavy deadlift. The bar is loaded close to your 1-rep max, and every inch of that pull is a slow, teeth-clenching struggle. That's strength. Now imagine picking up a moderate weight, maybe 40 to 60% of your max, and moving it as explosively as possible. That's power. The first lift shows what you can move, the second shows how fast you can mobilize your strength. Both matter, but they're not the same. Everyday life is full of these quick force moments. Think about standing up from a chair. Doing it slowly with effort is strength. Doing it quickly before you lose balance is power. Or picture yourself tripping on the sidewalk. Strength might let you lift your foot, but power is what helps you snap that foot forward in time to catch yourself before you hit the ground. Athletes know this intuitively. Sprinters, jumpers, martial artists, football players all live and die on their ability to generate force in fractions of a second. But for the average person, the stakes are just as high, especially with age. Now here's where it gets interesting. Strength and hypertrophy training both influence power, but indirectly. If you only train strength, heavy, slow lifts, you'll gain force capacity, but not necessarily the ability to express it quickly. If you only train hypertrophy, moderate loads, lots of reps, you'll gain bigger muscles, but they might not fire any faster. Endurance training builds energy systems for long efforts, but it doesn't train rapid recruitment either. Power training is unique because it specifically targets rate of force development, the nervous system's ability to activate muscle fibers rapidly, and to coordinate explosive movements with speed. Physiologically, power training recruits more fast-twitch fibers, the ones designed to contract quickly and forcefully. It forces the nervous system to fire motor units at higher rates and in tighter synchrony. Over time, these adaptations don't just make you quicker, they sharpen the entire neuromuscular system. Think of it as fine-tuning your body's electrical wiring for speed and responsiveness. That's why in sports science, power is often measured differently than strength. Researchers look at things like vertical jump height, sprint acceleration, or how much wattage an athlete can produce on a cycling test. These aren't about how much muscle you have, they're about how effectively and explosively your muscles can be recruited in real time. And here's something that surprises many people. The optimal load for developing power is often much lighter than you think. Studies show that peak power is usually expressed with loads around 30 to 60% of your 1-rep max. In other words, training power isn't about maxing out heavy weights. It's about picking a moderate load and moving it with maximal intent. That intent is everything. You could use the same weight for a slow, grinding set and call it strength work, or you could explode with it and now it's power work. So to summarize, power is not a luxury skill reserved for Olympic lifters or professional athletes. It's the physical quality that lets us move with speed, react to the world around us, and maintain agility in daily life. It's distinct from strength, size, or endurance, though it borrows elements from all of them. And it's trainable by anyone, at any age. In the next section, we're going to look at why we lose power faster than strength as we age, and what's actually happening inside our muscles, nerves, and tendons when that decline sets in. The science of power loss. So far, we've defined power as the ability to generate force quickly, and we've seen how it differs from strength, endurance, or hypertrophy. But the real question is, why do we lose power so much faster than strength as we age? The answer lies in a combination of muscular, neural, and connective tissue changes that start earlier than most people realize. Let's begin with muscle fibers. Our muscles are made up of different fiber types, slow twitch or type 1 fibers, and fast twitch or type 2 fibers. Slow twitch fibers are endurance-oriented. They're fatigue-resistant but not very powerful. Fast twitch fibers, on the other hand, contract rapidly and forcefully, making them essential for explosive power. As we age, we don't lose fibers evenly. Research shows that fast twitch fibers are the first to decline. By the time most people hit their 70s, they've lost a large proportion of these high-powered fibers. The slow twitch ones hang on longer, which explains why older adults might still be able to perform long walks or light activities but struggle with anything requiring quick bursts. But it's not just the fibers themselves, it's the wiring. Each muscle fiber is controlled by a motor neuron, and together they form motor units. Throughout life, we gradually lose motor neurons. When a motor neuron dies, the fibers it controls become orphaned. Sometimes they can be re-innervated by neighboring neurons, but here's the catch. They usually get reconnected to slower, more fatigue-resistant neurons. The result? Over time, your muscles literally rewire themselves to favor endurance at the expense of speed and explosiveness. This process can be dramatic. By age 70 or 80, people may have lost up to 40 to 60% of their motor units, with the biggest losses in those fast-twitch, high-threshold ones that produce power. That means even if you still have muscle mass, your ability to recruit it quickly is compromised. On top of that, the surviving fibers themselves shrink. Cross-sectional studies show a 10 to 20% loss of muscle mass by age 70 and another 20% by 80. That's a huge reduction in total force capacity. Combine fewer fibers, smaller fibers, and slower re-innervation, and you start to see why power erodes at double the rate of strength. Then there's the speed of contraction itself. Even when older adults do activate their muscle fibers, the contractions are slower. Studies measuring reaction time and movement velocity show a 15 to 40% reduction in the speed of simple actions like arm bending compared to younger adults. The whole neuromuscular system slows down, from the signal traveling along the nerve to the release of calcium that makes fibers contract. Think of it like an electrical circuit where the wires are fraying and the signal is getting weaker. We also have to consider tendons. Tendons aren't just passive ropes connecting muscle to bone, they act like springs, storing and releasing elastic energy. With age, tendons lose stiffness. Instead of snapping energy back, they act more like worn-out rubber bands, soaking up force instead of returning it quickly. This means that even if your muscles are contracting well, the energy transfer to actual movement is less efficient. All of this together creates a perfect storm. Fewer fast-twitch fibers, fewer motor units, smaller fibers, slower contractions, and less elastic tendons. Strength declines gradually, but power, the ability to generate force quickly, plummets. The real-world consequences are obvious. Without adequate power, daily activities become harder. Rising from a chair is slower. Climbing stairs requires more effort. Catching yourself from a stumble becomes unreliable. And falls aren't just accidents. They're one of the leading causes of hospitalization and mortality in older adults. That's why studies have found that muscle power is actually a stronger predictor of health outcomes than muscle strength alone. The good news is that this decline isn't inevitable. The neuromuscular system is plastic, meaning it can adapt, even in older age. When people train for power, they can preserve and even restore many of these functions. In fact, lifelong exercisers show dramatically less motor unit loss compared to sedentary peers. That's what we'll explore next, the direct impacts of power loss on health, and why preserving it could be the most important thing you do for your longevity. The impact of power loss on health and longevity. Now that we've seen why power declines faster than strength, let's look at what that really means for our health and our daily lives. Because power isn't just an abstract metric in a lab, it has direct consequences on independence, vitality, and even survival. First, let's talk about falls. In the United States alone, more than 1 in 4 adults over 65 experiences a fall each year. That translates into millions of hospital visits, broken hips, head injuries, and in too many cases, a rapid decline in independence. What makes falls so dangerous isn't just the injury itself, it's what happens afterward. A hip fracture, for example, often sets off a downward spiral of reduced mobility, loss of muscle mass, and increased risk of death. In fact, the year following a major fall is one of the riskiest periods of life for older adults. So where does power come in? Think of a stumble. To catch yourself, your muscles need to fire explosively. Your foot has to shoot forward fast enough. Your arms have to flail out quickly enough to restore balance. If your power reserve is gone, you simply don't react in time. That's why studies consistently show that muscle power predicts fall risk better than muscle strength. Strength might tell you how much force you can generate eventually, but power tells you if you can generate it fast enough to matter. Beyond falls, power influences the most basic tasks of daily living. Rising from a chair, climbing stairs, walking at a brisk pace, getting out of a car. All of these require rapid force generation. In clinical research, tests like the 30-second chair stand or short stair climbs are often used as proxies for functional independence. When people can't perform them quickly, it's a red flag for future disability. And here's the striking part. Power isn't just about function. It's tied directly to survival. In one large study that followed nearly 4,000 adults between the ages of 46 and 75 for about a decade, researchers found that low muscle power was a stronger predictor of all-cause mortality than low muscle strength. Think about that for a moment. Whether or not you can move quickly was a better indicator of your lifespan than whether or not you can move heavy. Why would that be? One explanation is that power is a more integrative measure. To move explosively, your nervous system, your muscles, your tendons, and even your cardiovascular system have to work in harmony. If any one of those systems is faltering, it shows up in power output. In other words, power may be a more sensitive biomarker of overall vitality than strength alone. Power also has ripple effects across health. Training it not only improves mobility but also helps maintain bone density through impact loading, improves reaction time in driving or avoiding hazards, and enhances confidence in movement, which reduces the fear of falling, a psychological barrier that often leads older adults to restrict their activity unnecessarily. Less movement means more decline, and the cycle continues downward. Power interrupts that cycle. It's worth pointing out that power isn't just for the elderly. Middle-aged adults, too, benefit from maintaining it. In our 40s and 50s, we may not notice daily deficits, but research shows that the decline begins decades before it becomes obvious. That means if you wait until your 70s to think about power, you're already far behind. The good news is that it's trainable at every stage of life. So the impact of power loss is broad and serious. More falls, slower mobility, less independence, lower quality of life, and even higher mortality risk. The flip side is equally powerful. By preserving and training power, you not only move better, you live better, and quite possibly live longer. In the next section, we'll shift from the problem to the solution. We'll look at how power training compares to other forms of exercise like strength, hypertrophy, endurance, and tendon-focused training, and why each serves a purpose, but only power directly trains the quality that keeps you quick, agile, and safe. How to train power. So how do we actually train for power? The answer may surprise you, because it's not about piling on more weight or grinding through endless sets. Power training is about intent, speed, and precision. The goal is not to fatigue your muscles. It's to teach your nervous system and your muscle fibers to fire explosively over and over again with high quality. Principle number 1, fast up, slow down. Every power exercise has 2 phases. The concentric or shortening phase is where you move against resistance. That's where you explode. The eccentric or lengthening phase is where you control the return. That's where you slow things down, keeping joints and tendons safe. Think of standing up quickly from a chair and then sitting back down under control. Principle number 2, quality over fatigue. This is the opposite of bodybuilding, where you chase a burn, or endurance training, where you accumulate miles. In power training, once your movement speed noticeably drops, the set is over. Studies suggest stopping sets when velocity falls by more than about 15%. That ensures every rep trains the nervous system for speed, not sluggishness. Principle number 3, light to moderate loads. The sweet spot for peak power is usually 30-60% of your 1 rep max, though some ballistic lifts use slightly heavier weights. The key is that the load is light enough for you to move with maximal intent. In practice, that means body weight, light dumbbells, medicine balls, or a barbell loaded with less than half of what you'd normally lift for strength. So what does this look like in real exercises? For beginners, it might be as simple as chair rises. Sit down, then stand up as quickly as possible, return slowly, and repeat for 6 to 8 reps. Or wall push-offs, leaning into a wall and pushing off explosively, letting your hands leave the surface before resetting. These require no equipment and are safe starting points for older adults. For intermediate lifters, we can add kettlebell swings, hinging at the hips and snapping the bell forward explosively, letting it float upward. Or medicine ball throws, chest passes, overhead slams, scoop tosses against a wall or into the ground. These train explosive hip and upper body power with manageable loads. For advanced trainees, power training often includes jump squats, trap bar jump shrugs, or Olympic lift derivatives like high pulls or push presses. These moves are staples in athletic training because they load the body explosively and recruit massive amounts of muscle. But here, form and tendon preparation matter. If you're not already comfortable with heavy lifting, it's better to stick to simpler ballistic moves. How should you program it? Reps per set, 3 to 6, always explosive. Sets, 3 to 5 per exercise. Rest, 2 to 3 minutes between sets to ensure quality. Frequency, 2 to 4 times per week, often placed at the start of a workout before strength or hypertrophy work. Safety is a priority, especially for older adults. That means building a base of strength first, then introducing low-impact explosive moves. Isometric holds and slow eccentrics prepare tendons. Progressions should move from stable to unstable, from bilateral to unilateral, from slow to fast, and from unweighted to weighted. For example, chair rises, weighted vest, chair rises, jump squats. One of the most effective strategies is contrast training, pairing a heavy strength move with a light explosive one. For instance, doing a heavy squat for 2 reps, resting briefly, then doing a set of jump squats. The heavy lift primes the nervous system, and the light lift trains it to express that force quickly. Athletes use this method constantly to maximize power transfer. The key takeaway? Power training isn't about volume, it's about intent. If you do 15 perfect explosive reps in a session, you've trained power effectively. If you grind through 50 slow, tired reps, you haven't. The nervous system learns what you practice. So if you want to stay sharp, you need to practice moving sharp. In the next section, we'll explore how power training looks at different stages of life, from childhood play to athletic prime to older adulthood, and why the principles stay the same even as the exercises evolve. Power training across the lifespan. One of the most fascinating things about power is that it isn't just for athletes in their prime. It's a quality that matters at every stage of life, from the explosive play of childhood, through the competitive edge of young adulthood, to the independence and safety of older age. The exercises change, but the principle stays the same. We need to practice moving fast if we want to keep that ability. Children and adolescents. For kids, power comes naturally. Watch a group of children playing tag, jumping off playground structures, or sprinting across a field, and you'll see instinctive power training in action. At this stage, the nervous system is highly plastic. Quick, varied movement builds coordination, balance, and bone density. Research shows that plyometric-style activities, like hopping, skipping, and bounding, are safe for children as long as they're age-appropriate and focused on fun rather than heavy loading. For young athletes, adding light medicine ball throws, short sprints, and agility drills lays a foundation for speed and strength later in life. Young adults, 20s and 30s. This is the period of peak physical power. Fast twitch fibers are abundant, tendons are resilient, and hormone levels support muscle and nerve growth. For competitive athletes, this is the time to maximize explosive capacity through Olympic lifts, heavy ballistic exercises, and structured plyometric training. But even for non-athletes, this is the time to build a lifelong buffer. The stronger and more powerful you are in your 20s and 30s, the more reserve you'll have to protect against the natural decline that begins in midlife. Think of it as building a power bank account that you can draw on later. Middle age, 40s and 50s. This is where many people first notice the power dip. Sprinting feels slower, jumps don't get as high, and movements lack their old snap. The physiology is clear. Fast twitch fibers and motor units begin to decline earlier than slow twitch ones, so explosiveness fades, even if overall strength seems intact. The good news is that power training remains highly effective at this age. The focus shifts toward maintaining explosiveness while managing recovery and joint health. Exercises like kettlebell swings, medicine ball throws, sled pushes, and jump squats with light weights are ideal. Tendon-friendly progressions, band-assisted jumps, controlled landings, or isometric prep help keep connective tissue resilient. Older adults, 60s and 70s. By this stage, the decline accelerates, but it's also the period where power training may be most important. Studies show that older adults who practice fast sit-to-stands, step-ups, or explosive wall push-offs improve their mobility and cut their risk of falls dramatically. Even modest programs, just a few sets of explosive chair rises per week, can restore functional ability. Safety is key here. Low loads, high control, and long rest periods. It's about quality movement, not volume. A 65-year-old doesn't need box jumps to benefit. Simply standing up quickly from a chair with intent ice enough stimulus to train power. The eldest, 80s and beyond. At the far end of the lifespan, many assume it's too late to train for power. but research proves otherwise. Even in their 80s and 90s, people can adapt. In nursing home studies, residents performing explosive sit-to-stands and light resistance exercises improved walking speed, reaction time, and independence. At this stage, the goal isn't athleticism, it's preserving autonomy, reducing fall risk, and maintaining dignity in daily life. And the remarkable thing is, adaptations happen quickly, because even small improvements in neuromuscular speed yield big functional gains when baseline power is low. The message across all these stages is simple. Power is universal. For children, it's play. For young adults, it's peak performance. For middle age, it's preservation. For older age, it's independence. And for the eldest, it's survival. At no point is power irrelevant. The form of training changes, but the principle, moving with speed and intent, is timeless. In the next section, we'll look at the common mistakes and myths about power training. Because while it's effective and safe when done right, misunderstandings often keep people from trying it, or lead them to do it in ways that increase risk. Common mistakes and myths. Even though power training is simple in principle, move fast with intent, people often misunderstand it or apply it in ways that reduce its effectiveness and increase risk. Let's clear the air by breaking down the most common mistakes and myths. Mistake number 1, treating power training like strength training. One of the biggest errors is using weights that are simply too heavy. When you load up 80 or 90% of your max and try to move explosively, what you end up with is just another slow lift. That's great for strength, but it won't train power. Remember, the sweet spot for power is usually 30 to 60% of your max. Light enough to move quickly, heavy enough to challenge you. Mistake number 2, chasing fatigue instead of quality. In hypertrophy training, you want to exhaust the muscle to stimulate growth. In endurance, you want to accumulate time under effort. But in power, fatigue is the enemy. Once your reps slow down, you're no longer training explosiveness. You're practicing sluggish movement. Quality matters far more than volume. Stop sets early, rest longer, and protect the sharpness of every rep. Mistake number 3, ignoring tendon preparation. Power training involves higher forces on tendons and joints, especially when it includes jumps or ballistic moves. Many people skip the preparatory work, like isometric holds or controlled eccentrics, and jump straight into advanced plyometrics. That's when injuries happen. A safe program always builds tendon resilience first. Think of isometric calf raises or wall sits as the armor your body wears before you unleash explosive movements. Mistake number 4, doing power work at the wrong time in the workout. Order matters. If you save your power drills for after an exhausting strength or cardio session, you won't have the freshness needed to move fast. Power should always come first, at the beginning of a workout, when your nervous system is sharp. Strength and hypertrophy can follow, but if you flip the order, you sabotage your own results. Mistake number 5, using complex moves too soon. Olympic lifts like the snatch or clean and jerk are phenomenal for power development, but they're technically demanding. Beginners often try to copy them without proper coaching, leading to poor form and injury risk. The truth is, you don't need advanced lifts to benefit. Simple moves, like medicine ball throws or band-assisted jumps, deliver explosive stimulus safely. Start there, and progress if you want. Now let's tackle a few myths that hold people back. Myth number 1, power training is only for athletes. This is one of the most dangerous misconceptions. Yes, athletes rely on power for performance, but so do ordinary people. Catching a fall, climbing stairs quickly, even reacting at a crosswalk. These are power-dependent tasks. Power training is for everyone, especially as we age. Myth number 2, power training is too dangerous for older adults. Done incorrectly, yes, it can be risky. But when programmed with light loads, long rests, and tendon-friendly exercises, it's one of the safest and most beneficial things an older adult can do. In fact, research shows that explosive sit-to-stands or fast step-ups reduce fall risk better than slow, heavy training. The key is progression. Start small, move fast, stay controlled. Myth number 3. Building strength automatically builds power. Strength and power overlap, but they're not identical. A strong muscle is a prerequisite for a powerful muscle, but if you never practice speed, you won't develop it. Think of a car engine. Horsepower, strength, is important, but without a transmission to deliver that power quickly, the car will crawl. Power training is that transmission. Myth number 4. If you're not sweating or sore, it's not working. Power training often feels almost too easy. Short sets, long rests, few reps. But don't mistake lack of fatigue for lack of stimulus. The nervous system doesn't adapt through soreness. It adapts through repeated high-quality explosive practice. By avoiding these mistakes and myths, you set yourself up for success. Power isn't just for athletes. It's the key to staying quick, mobile, and independent at every age. Strength keeps you strong, endurance keeps you going, but power keeps you moving. Add just a few explosive reps to your routine each week, and you'll protect one of the most vital qualities for health and longevity. If you found this helpful, hit like and subscribe. And remember, never stop moving with power.